Hi Scorpio, it's Jenny here with your June Tarot Horoscope. So as always, we're just going to pull a single card for the month of June and see what's coming up for you. So the first 2/3 of June is Gemini season, and then we have the solstice, so summer solstice if you're in the northern hemisphere, or winter solstice if you're in the south. And then after solstice, it'll be Cancer season. So that's kind of what's coming up this month. So we're just going to, there. How about that one? All right, so Scorpio, this is what you've got for June. So we have the Five of Wands. So this is what it looks the right way up. So we've got these kind of haphazard wands strewn about here. Way in the back, we have this contingent of soldiers, pikemen with a bunch of spears. Then we have all these butterflies kind of obscuring everything, as well as this sort of red haze. And that's what's coming up for you this month. So we're going to see what it has to say. Okay, Five of Wands, shaping your will. Wands stand for instinctive drives and initiative and represent the fire element. Five Wands are the essence of the fire element, the human will. Our will is made up of our deeds and intentions, our consciously chosen actions, and our unconscious motives. As long as the fire of life burns, your will is constantly being reshaped. In the background, 7 or 8 helmets of lance bearers and 12 lances can be seen on the card. Each one of the 12 lances and of the 5 green wands represents a certain type of energy. As if participating in a huge game of pick up sticks, it is your task to gather up this energy, to sort through it, and to focus it on something worthwhile. Different interests and tendencies are always pulling in different directions. What has first priority? How can several goals be attained at the same time? An integral part of this process of shaping the will is for existing role models to become obsolete. The red area in the middle of the card stands for your personal fire, your power and vivacity, creating new facts that go way beyond traditional experiences, thus dismissing those redundant conceptions. Do not spread your energies too thin. Center yourself. See your current tasks as tests of your determination, your willpower, and your playfulness. Find out which aspects of your will are in harmony with your desires and so able to get something moving. Find out which acts of will are superfluous because you are still trying to force something to happen that is actually no longer relevant or has not yet become so. Practical advice. Create space in your daily routine. This might include taking some time out or establishing your own room. New alternatives are waiting to be explored and tested in your personal relationships and in your career. Go for it. Okay, shaping your will. So this is a, excuse me, a fire element card, but it's actually also tunes in really well with some Scorpio energy as well, because Scorpio actually has for a water sign, it has a very strong connection to will, because it's connected to your desire. Scorpio is all about exploring desire and also finding the limits of what's possible, the limits of intensity, limits of emotion, limits of desire, and like bringing your will in alignment with your desire. So Scorpio itself kind of has like what almost feels like that fiery component to it, because the will is usually associated with fire signs. But so this one is really, it's wanting us to figure out what our will is, but it's not very clear at the moment. So this card is definitely saying that at the moment, like, you might need to be paying more attention to what it is that your will is. Like, it's not that clear. There's been other stages in your life where maybe you know what you're doing, but for whatever reason, things are kind of thrown, like the pickup sticks, things have been kind of thrown every which way now. Things aren't super clear, and you have a lot of potency and a lot of power as a Scorpio, and so you really need to make sure that you're applying that power in alignment with your will, and it really doesn't do well if you have lost track of what it is that your desires and your purpose is, because you have so much potency and energy behind you. If you're throwing it in the wrong direction, then stuff's gonna go down. So this is indicating that there is a need to reassess and organize some things and sort some things out, to see what it is that's going on here. So there's needing to examine, like, and this, the, like, always a tendency, or there's often a tendency to use the mind first when trying to sort things out, especially culturally. We're in a culture that very much like puts on a pedestal the rational mind and thinking and anything that can be proven through thought or logic. And so it's often easy, if you have a problem, to sort of just jump to, I have to figure it out with my brain. What is it that I believe that I know? What seems rational? What seems logical? But when we're talking about fire energy, it's more about instinct and intuition, and that sense of what your will is it's like this driving energy behind what then becomes your thoughts and your mental processes. Like this will is like this initiating fire that causes usually like an emotional reaction to things, like emotion of either like repulsion or desire or attraction, and then from there, with you like reading through your emotional responses to these like this bubbling up of will or inspiration, that's then at the point where it gets to be mental, and then we start to think about it. So if we jump straight to thinking, we haven't yet had the process of feeling and experiencing these sort of beginner steps. So this is yeah, it's going to stack really interestingly in this particular season. So this card is saying, okay, you need to tap into what is this first instinct, this intuition, this will. There's like a heat, a fire that's going to be cooking, and then you are going to have an emotional response to it. As a Scorpio, that emotional response can be quite intense. So whatever that might be, it might be intense desire, intense attraction for whatever it is that's coming up, or like an intense, like a negative response of rejection. I really don't like that. Or, like a bit of a jealousy, like whatever it is, there's going to be an emotional response. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you have a good emotional response, that's what you should do. And if you have a bad emotional response, you want to reject that. Sometimes the like kind of negative or yuckier emotions we have are actually, because they might repulse us, it might actually be showing us like, there's some unmet need here, and that's bringing up this grief, or there's some baggage of like experiences of jealousy or a bit of trauma there, that like the reason we're feeling such a yuck to it is because it's unresolved, which is then you get to take that step of now you get to play with it in your mind, and you get to analyze, and you get to think, okay, what do these emotions mean? What was this reaction from this kind of initial instinctive kind of intuitive hit? And that's where you get to go and do the work of sorting through the sticks, picking up sticks and trying to say, okay, like what is it that I actually want to do with this? Where is my will pointing me towards? What has the priority? This is talking about with these wands kind of going in every which way. There might be a lot of different pulls, a lot of different priority, and so you're going to need to sort of sort that out and kind of triage what it is you need to be doing first, and what like has that most potency, whether it's this potency of, oh my god, there's so much pain or irritation or yuckiness that I clearly have to deal with that, or it's this excitement and attraction that, yeah, like get on that, let's focus on that. The wands kind of have the Five of Wands energy is kind of every which way, and Gemini season can kind of feel like everything's kind of happening in every direction. Gemini is an air sign, and it's very like fun and bouncy, and usually doesn't want to stick with one thing too long, and also doesn't necessarily like to play in the worlds of the heavy. It likes to go kind of light. So Gemini season is like generally also pretty good for juggling multiple things, because Gemini's like, oh, this trickster, this jester, and doesn't want to focus on just one thing at a time. So if you're finding that there's a lot of like kind of disparate things going on, actually this is in some ways a really good month for you to do that, because it's easier to have that multi-focused brain, and so you can kind of like, juggle this, I need to do some of this. So that might help you not feel overwhelmed. And also that Gemini lightness is going to bring some of the sense of the joke, like finding humor in things. So even if you're having like, maybe some intense feelings to it, or you're trying to figure out what it is you truly desire and your will, and that's always such a potent question for you. And Gemini season just kind of says like, sure, it's all important, but like, you don't have to freak out about it. Like, do the work, sure, but not if it's gonna like break your back. Certainly you should still be having fun and humor with it. And so that's a good way to not feel overwhelmed and to still enjoy the process. Downside is that Gemini might not really want to deal with some of the heavier stuff. So if there are some deeper emotions to it, you want to bring the like lightness and humor into it without the avoidant tendency of, let's just bounce to something else that's more fun. Let's bounce to something else because I don't want to deal with that heaviness. So your like Scorpio intensity and like willingness to kind of get into the meat of things is going to help you. So you want to balance, like use that, the lightness of Gemini without the avoidant tendency. To really just gather up all these energies and sort things through, and see what it is that wants to be seen. So there's this, you're going to want to try to center yourself and like be calm and focused and really believe that you're going to figure this out, because all the energy around you might be kind of crazy. Like this Five of Wands is like, this stuff that needs to be dealt with, and Gemini's like, sure, let's just do whatever. So you are going to want to be like very centered as things kind of swirl around, and that's going to kind of build up through Gemini season, that kind of airiness. And then at solstice, that's probably going to feel pretty climactic. Solstice being the peak of light in the northern hemisphere, the peak of darkness in the southern hemisphere. And so either way, it's an extreme, it's an extremity. And Scorpio, like, you're usually pretty good with extremities. That's kind of the realm you may play in. So that this might not be as big of a struggle as it might be for a different kind of sign. You don't want to like wallow in it, like get too like heavy in that intensity. You still want to be centered out. But just going to that edge and feeling around that solstice point might give you a bit more insight, or like that might be when you start to be gathering things in. You're kind of just sorting out, getting the lay of the land of what's coming up. What are my intuition telling me? What are all these feelings that are coming up? What am I going to have to do about it? What do I think about it? That's going to feel like it's just a lot of organizing and trying to get things like to see what's happening. And then by solstice, that's probably going to give you this like more of an insight, of an integration of, okay, maybe that's where you see like, this is really what I need to work on. Or this is actually where my will is pointing me towards. This is something that's important to me. And then from there, Cancer season is all about nurturing. Cancer is the sign of the mother, but like the mother as an archetype is, it's not about male or female. It's about the being that takes the fresh, small, young, infant, seedling idea that's in its infantile stage and tenderly loves it, cares for it, protects it, and helps it grow until it's matured, and then lets it go and releases it. So the mother archetype is maturing and protecting of this infantile idea. So whatever this might be, it might be you're finally in tune with what your will is pointing you towards, or that's a project or a relationship, or something to do with your work, whatever it might be. It's a new, fresh thing that's like kind of like, it's almost like solstice is this birthing point. And now, and then Cancer season's like, okay, I've got this fresh little thing and I'm going to take care of it and I'm going to love it and I'm going to protect it because it's still really fragile. It can't stand on its own. So that's also something to think about, is not have too much excessive expectation on whatever it is that's going to be organized through this process of dealing with all of this wand energy. Once you've maybe like, you might feel like you want it to be done just because you've kind of aligned yourself and maybe have a goal moving forward. But that's just the organization stage. You haven't completed it. You haven't built it. It's not quite strong enough or adult enough yet to stand on its own. So there is still that patience required, that like, don't want to rush it along. Things grow at their own time. They just deserve this care and this love. So that's what you're going to be encouraged to kind of lean into after solstice, is just like, just feeling that unconditional love and care, and whatever that might look like. So that might be bringing up, as anytime you explore archetypical energies, like this, like mother energy, father energy, because we all have some sort of relationship to the concept of mother, fatherhood. Maybe it's a positive one, maybe it's a tense one. So that can also just bring up particular things, triggers, of your relationship. Again, motherhood isn't defined by like male or female bodied beings. It's concepts. And so if that, like, even after solstice, there might be a bit of a release, but moving into that mother energy, if you have any particular baggage around that, just be prepared that like you can also be nurturing yourself and doing that like self-parenting and giving yourself that unconditional, nurturing, protective love that the mother gives. And that can be an emotional experience if you didn't necessarily have that, or have some sort of criticism of the way in which you were mothered or parented. So as always, just be aware, be kind to yourself, and understanding if you have less energy to put out and deal with other people while you're kind of figuring this all out for yourself. Be also kind to them. You don't need to overtax yourself, but like, don't snap at people. Just, give them a heads up that if you're doing some of your own work. Excuse me, just swallowed in my spit there. So I think I'm going to leave it with that. That seems pretty complete for me. Also, this in particular for you, Scorpio, you should definitely check out my Gemini season Pay What You Can workshop. There's some very, very, spoiler alert, very similar, maybe the exact same card that comes up in that reading for you, for the collective for Gemini season. So this is a lot of stuff that's going to be happening for everybody, and you're getting kind of double dose. So I would highly recommend you check that out because it's got more information on the planetary transits that are going to be happening. So more of the overarching influences for what's going to be happening, at least up until solstice. So if you take that workshop, that's really going to help you get some tools for what you're going to be managing here. So go check the workshop, Pay What You Can, just on my YouTube channel, check it out, and that'll give you a bit of a boost. So take care, Scorpio. I will see you next month.